going on, guys? Pilo Trades here. Hey, here's a couple of tips that I came across to help you with your financial needs. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, I don't know if the first one is obvious, but honestly, when I saw it, it hit me. It hit me pretty hard, right? So it says to start small. Let go of the idea that there's a certain amount of money you have to save, right? And just start. There really is no amount too small to make a difference in your finances, even if it's just a few dollars a week or a month. I mean, obviously, the bigger you start with, the better the outcome. But nonetheless, I mean, if you ask me, look at the reason why you want to save money and then just go from there. If you want to save, a couple of bucks per week or per month, look at that goal you want to hit and maybe divide it up in, 12 months or, however many weeks it's going to take for you to get there and go off of that. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that I'm a big advocate of high yielding savings account, and I am a huge opponent, or whatever you want to call it. I'm very anti regular savings accounts. Now, if you don't know the difference, I'll tell you real quick. I don't like having my savings, in something like Bank of America or Chase or, any of the institutions like that. Now, I'm not sponsored by them, but I'd rather have my money in something like M1 Finance, right? M1 Finance has a high yielding savings account, and they will give you somewhere around 4% for your money rather than like 0.01 or whatever, the percentage is for, the traditional banks. Now, the next tip goes along with my recommendation to use M1 Finance, right? You automate your savings, right? The easiest way to build a lifelong savings habit is to put your contributions on autopilot. Now, with M1, I think one of the best features that it has, and again, I'm not sponsored by them, is that you can automate all your savings, right? Or even your investments. You can put it on autopilot and just forget about it. Now, you will do yourself a disservice if you keep checking up on it. So the best thing to do is just set it, forget it. You can also reach out to your human services or payroll representative or, to your bank, I guess, and, set up an automatic contribution to your savings from each paycheck. When you do, you'll ensure you always save money out of the money you earn. It's a strategy known as pay yourself first. I want to take the chance to apologize if you hear a lot of background noise. I am in San Diego Bay, and there's, a lot of aircraft and, there's a lot of ships out here and very noisy environment. Now, this next point, I feel like it validates me a lot as well, right? You need to choose the right, I don't want to say bank account, but choose the right account, right? Go with a high yielding savings account. It's just to look for an account that gives you the incentives to put your money into savings with no monthly fees. Now, I know that M1 has a fee. M1 Finance does have a fee, but they waive that fee so long as you hit a certain amount per month. I think it's like $10,000. If you hit $10,000 at any point in that monthly period, they waive that fee. Now, I know I'm doing myself a disservice when I say this, but don't quote me on that. Go ahead yourself and do your own research on that. The reason why I say that is because I opened up my M1 savings account a long time ago, and so even though this was not, the whole waiving of the fee thing, if you reach a certain amount of, of money in your account per month, even though that wasn't a thing when I opened my account, I believe it is today. So go ahead and look at the specifics and look at, any of the institutions, honestly, that call your attention, or any of the high yielding savings accounts that, you're interested in, and look and see what the benefit is to opening up an account with them. Now, I know this was going to hit home again or as well, but review your purchases, all right? Look through your recent bank and credit card statements, highlight all the unnecessary expenses, and, just get rid of them, right? For, I don't know, just give it a, like a monthly tryout. See if you can live without it. Some of the big ticket items, like mentioned on the screenshot, is, streaming services, and the other thing that comes to mind is, Starbucks, call me a basic bee, but I love getting my white chocolate mocha. I love getting my pumpkin spice latte when it's in season. Nonetheless, look at your expenses. See if you can, instead of buying lunch, at work, maybe pack yourself, something to go, or, look at other apps that you're using that maybe you don't need to at this time, or maybe you can go about it, not having them for like 6 months or so, and, and then go from there. Now, this last point, I know this one, it drives me nuts. All right. Because it says, I know this article is about saving, this video is about saving, especially if you have like a short-term goal in mind. But honestly, I have a problem with saving, right? Unless we're talking about, your emergency fund. Then, yeah, sure. Meet your goal, set it, forget it, and then move on. But honestly, I'd rather just invest, right? So even though I have a problem with this article saying increase your saving, not spending, and I think it should say increase investing, not spending, the point here remains the same, right? The whole thing about increasing saving and not spending, it reminds me of a conversation that I had with my neighbor around Super Bowl. Actually, it was around Super Bowl time. We were talking about financial independence. We were talking about financial freedom and building generational wealth for our kids, for our babies. And so, we were talking about, accounts. We were talking about different types of accounts that we can help them set them up for life. We were talking about how the mentality is that as soon as I get a pay increase or as soon as I save a little bit, have an extra little bit of money in this paycheck, the first thing that comes to our minds is what can I spend it on, right? Rather than, in this case, maybe I should save it, or maybe what can I invest it on? So honestly, going past further, what the article mentions, when it comes to, a lifestyle or, just having that mindset of spending, rather than like saving or investing, honestly, you just go beyond that, right? And establish those habits, right? It's about establishing a habit. And then once you establish that habit, you're going to go from like, hey, I just got, I don't know, maybe a $200 increase per paycheck, right? Instead of, oh man, well, maybe we can afford this, maybe we can, buy that, or, that means having, the leeway to have another monthly expense. No. If you ask me, that's the wrong mentality. If you ask me, that's when you should be like, you know what, instead of having this like $200 that I can spend extra on something we clearly don't need because you weren't thinking about it before you got this $200 increase, maybe you should say to yourself, hey, this is $200 we can put into that savings account, into that emergency fund, into our portfolio. Honestly, guys, it's a mentality, right? It's a mentality. And I know this article is about saving, and that works when you have a short-term goal in mind. But when it comes to long-term investing, when it comes to building generational wealth, you want to have that long-term mindset, right? You want to, instead of saying, hey, you know what? I want to spend money on this unnecessary crap because I got a pay raise. Maybe we should look into, how to invest it, how to make that money grow, especially now when there's a correction going on, where there's like a sale going on in the stock market. That's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching. Remember, keep dollar cost averaging, keep investing. Until next one, take care.